Hey, good morning, everyone. This is AKA Heather Joy, and I'm streaming both on the Lifeboat and my own channel this morning. And I just want to welcome everybody. And I'm just going to peek over here and see who's in chat. Good morning, Todd, Missile Smoke, Stanford Truth, Charlie, Andy Paul, Albert Cross, clear across that pond. Let's see. Joe Dutchino, he's here. Lemmy is here. All right, Monk, Rick, who else? And Dennis N. Good morning, you guys. Glad to have everybody. I haven't pulled up the chat for my channel. Oh, well. Before I jump into this, I just want to quickly go over the rules that we have on the Lifeboat. The first one, this is not a political channel, and we do not discuss politics unless, well, that's all at Tommy's discretion. Number two, this is not a religious channel. It's all right to say things like, I'm going to pray for you, or, I couldn't have found sobriety without my faith. Those things are fine. But if you get into the area of saying things like, my God is better than your God, or this is why you're not getting into heaven, yeah, that's a no-go. Number four, there's absolutely no place on my channel or the Lifeboat, no place for cruelness. People come here to get help and to build each other up, and that's what this should be here for. Sometimes we discuss rather sensitive ideas and subjects, and that can be a difficult thing. So if you are caught being mean, you're going to be banned permanently. So just don't even go there. Anyway, again, I just want to wish everybody a good morning. That was weird, actually, having yesterday. Did I watch? Yeah, I guess I did watch last night. I was so out of it. I did not feel well, but it's good. So good to be back. Feeling like mostly human. So anyway, I want to talk about highly what it means to be a highly sensitive person. And this is something I'm betting. I haven't seen numbers or anything, but I'm just betting that people, especially on the Lifeboat, there's a great deal of us that could be classified as highly sensitive people. And what is that? There's a lot of different definitions, but basically what it comes down to is, let's see. Let me look at my notes here. Let's see. Okay, so this is how one article that I was reading about it, this is how it described it. It said it's a personality trait involving an increased sensitivity. Okay, sorry. It's an increased sensitivity of your central nervous system at a deeper cognitive processing. Why can't I read my own writing? Anyway, it's when your central nervous system, everything that you take in with your five senses, whether you're smelling something, seeing something, hearing something, touching something, that all of the senses that your body uses, to process what's going on around you. People that are highly sensitive, they seem to process everything just at a deeper level. Everything that comes in, and being one, I know you feel everything you feel, whether it's good or bad, you feel it 100%. You're definitely alive. Anyway, this article talks about how it's characterized by a tendency to pause to check. So, in a new situation, if you're in a new place or a new situation of any kind, people that are highly sensitive have that tendency to, if you walk into a new room, to stop and just do a check, and it's it's not just what you can see and hear and touch. It's for a lot of people, it's what you feel, hear. It's your gut reaction. There's a lot of that, and that's very characteristic in any new situation with people like that. They just have a tendency to kind of stop for a minute. And I've seen both my daughters do that, and I know they are both very, very sensitive. Anyway, let's see here. Yeah, so you have a greater sensitivity if you are a highly sensitive person. You are trying to figure out the best way to describe this. Okay, you have a subtle, even the subtle things, the little things, highly sensitive people pick up on. Like if you are having a conversation with someone, a highly sensitive person is going to not just look at the person and see them. They're going to be noticing their posture. They're going to be noticing, the aura, the energy that they have and that they put off. They're going to listen for the tone of your voice, and the way certain words are pronounced and said. I mean, there's so much to pick up on, and highly sensitive people have, for one reason or another, have developed this way of processing everything in their world. And a lot of times it comes from a need. It's kind of a survival instinct for a lot of people. That you have it. People that are highly sensitive, they have it's just everything that they process, cognitively, is just at a much deeper level. And that goes for emotions too. If you feel something emotionally strong and you're a highly sensitive person, again, like I said, you feel it 100%. And I bet there are a lot of you out here that process everything this way. And this can be having this this way of processing everything in your world. It can be negative and it can be positive. Sometimes it can be a real hindrance, and I have thought that often throughout my life, because I've always wondered why I felt everything so extremely. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not fun at all. But I was looking through some old. There's a couple. They were both psychologists, doctorate level. It was a husband and wife, and it was, let's see, Elaine and Arthur Aaron were their names. And in the mid 90s, they did a lot of research on highly sensitive people. And they're kind of the ones that coined that term. But what they started looking at in the first place was they were looking for people that had these traits, that have a particular, I remember what I started to say. They came up with a test that can actually measure how sensitive a highly sensitive person is, because of course, with anything there can be quite varying degrees of that. But they actually came up with a test. I found it online. I've already been diagnosed as being highly sensitive, but I took that test, and I was like way up to there. I wasn't surprised either. But let's see. Yeah, they were looking for people that were just highly sensitive to do their all of the different studies that they did. And they decided in the end, after all of the research that they had done in this area, they determined that 15 to 20% of the population is considered to be highly sensitive. They also, I guess there is the old term used to be, what did I write here? Sensory processing sensitivity. So, sensory, that's just, all your five senses. It's all the things that go in, the signals that go into your head so they can interpret them. And I guess the old term was just the sensory processing sensitivity, and that's kind of where they started. And I didn't have time to read through all of the different studies that they had done, but it was really interesting. But one of the big things that they asserted, this couple, was that this trait of being highly sensitive, it's not a disorder. It's an innate survival strategy that has its advantages and disadvantages. But I love that they wanted people to know, to understand that, you know, it's not a disability. And they worked for a long time to make sure that their studies showed that there was a big difference between other types of what's the term that everybody uses now? Other, like, neurodivergent. There are a lot of people, like autistic people, that have a problem with taking in and processing everything. And people that are autistic and have other issues like that, the problem with them is that everything that they take into their brain, you know, everything that is sensory that goes into their brain, the problem lays with the mind's ability. They don't have the ability to process it correctly. There's something wrong there. People that are just highly sensitive, that's not where the problem is. That there really isn't a problem. They process everything on such a deeper level. They really wanted to make sure that people understood that, you know, it wasn't one of the disorders. It wasn't one of the mental illnesses. It's just a trait that, you know, 15 to 20% of the population have. But you know, one of the reasons that I really wanted to talk about this one is because I know how deeply that's affected everything in my life. The fact that you know, everything that comes into my brain is processed very deeply. You know, when you experience bad things, it's compounded. You know, the experience really is compounded, and it's very often you just emotionally exhausting things that shouldn't bother a normal adult. You know, it can really get to you. And because of that, you know, as far as everybody that's on the lifeboat, you know, there's the one thing that we want more than anything is sobriety. And, you know, that's a difficult thing if you know, are highly sensitive, because everything you've experienced that's pushed you towards addiction, you know, those experiences, as I said, they are compounded. You feel everything so much more deeply. And I think in that way, it can be a definite problem, and it can hinder getting help that you need, because when you feel, you know, all of those negative emotions so strongly, it is very difficult to get out of that rut. And then I was also just this is kind of an FYI bit, but, you know, I guess they actually started researching this subject back in the 70s, and it was a German doctor, Wolfgang Klages, I believe, Dr. Klages, yeah. He believed that the phenomenon of this people that are sensitive and those that are highly sensitive humans, he always felt that it was biologically anchored. You know, there was something genetically and something, you know, something biological, you know, something in your body that was underpinning that whole thing. I found that very interesting. That's where he was started on this, you know, clear back in the 70s. Anyway, I told you about that couple, the Aaron doctors. That's where I wrote that down. Yeah, they wanted to make sure that things, traits like shyness or sensation seeking, and I had to write that one down. It's been a long time. I couldn't remember that one, what that meant. Sensation seeking is simply seeking experiences that are novel, you know, something new, something rich or very intense. You know, there are some people that go out and seek those things, and that's not what being highly sensitive is. Another thing that they were talking about sensory processing disorders, like autism, and it is not that either. Yeah, like I'd already said before, there are certain disorders like autism where the sensory input, everything that's coming in, isn't being processed correctly, and that's what's going on there. It is a very different thing. And then I didn't have time to do any digging here, and I want to go back and look at this, but there were a bunch of genetic studies that have been done studying people that have this highly sensitive perception and processing. And I thought what they found genetically is that there's a serotonin transporter that has a short genotype, so that they found a marker there. They also found there are polymorphisms of dopamine neurotransmitter genes. So there are all kinds of different how would I explain, like a polymorph, like polymorphs could be expressed in like take two puppies and one is dark and the other is white. That's kind of they're both the same puppy and the same breed, but those polymorphisms are what's the word, are I apologize, guys. That's what the genes show. Sorry, I'm not explaining this very well, but I found that very interesting, that genetically, they have found markers that so there, that doctor that was first starting out looking at the biological anchors, I think he was onto something there. Anyway, I want to talk more about some of the traits that you'll find with highly sensitive people, and I'm sure that when I list these and I explain them, you are going to hear some of them and go, they're going to vibe with you. I'm pretty darn sure. Let's see. One of the first traits I was reading about was people that are highly sensitive. They get really worked up with displays of violence and cruelty. And yeah, I know that can really bother me, things like I'm a big Keanu Reeves fan, so of course I've seen all the John Wicks over and over and over, but it's very rare that I can sit down and watch a whole one through, because if you've seen them, the action, the violence, and the cruelty that is in that movie. And it's very rare that I can actually even feel like I can sit down and handle it to watch that movie. That's too much. And the things I think that bother me deeply are when I see people, just being cruel, whether it's emotional or physical. But when you see cruelty happening when there's no need, and when is there need for cruelty? But that really gets to me. If somebody is in a movie and they're in a big fight, and you have all of the sound effects and everything, and bones are breaking and spines are bending, all of that just gets to me. And I'm finding the older I get too, the more sensitive I'm becoming. And there are so many things I can't watch anymore. If my husband actually has a minute to watch TV and he's got something on, it's very often I cannot even sit down in the room, because it's stuff like that gets to me. But that would be, if somebody gets really into a story, and and violence and cruelty really bother them, even when it's a fictional story and they still get into it, that's a highly sensitive person right there. Something I want you to remember is, that being that sensitive, that is not a sign of weakness at all. It's a testament. Honestly, I found this quote, and I thought it fit here perfectly. It's a testament to their profound understanding of human suffering. People that are sensitive like that, exactly. Their being that sensitive is not weakness. It's that they have a profound understanding of human suffering. And for all of us over here on the lifeboat, we understand. Every one of us that are here understand. human suffering. We know how hard addiction is, what a bondage it is, how hard it is to get out of it. You know, we know that very well. The second thing that I came across, as far as, you know, another example, a trait of a highly sensitive person would be they often experience emotional exhaustion. Very often, highly sensitive people are empathic, and they can feel others people's emotions, not just understand, you know, cognitively understand what another person might be going through. I mean, they can literally feel another person's emotions. I know I do all the time. And there are some people I've had to end friendships with because they were exhausting to me to be around them and to try to keep them happy and to try to comfort them with all of the little things that bother them. There's just some people, you know, when they leave your house, you find you're absolutely exhausted. And when they call and want to come over, it's not that you don't love them. It's just that you can't give out any more energy. I know what that feels like. It is very emotionally exhausting. Anyway, you know, people that are highly sensitive like that are very often empathic. They are sponges for emotions, you know, and the highs and the lows honestly can become just too intense, too much. You know, you'll end up just being really fatigued, really worn out. You might feel burned out, you know, even in a rut if you're in, you know, in emotional exhaustion. But it's a very common thing with people that are highly sensitive. And things, you know, if you're going through therapy, and you're remembering difficult memories, things that were traumatic, you know, working through all of that, you find it is more exhausting, you know, than running 8 miles, honestly. These emotions for me can just be completely overwhelming at times. And I think my husband's just learned to expect with me that every, I don't know, month or so, I have a day where I can't, all I do is cry all day long. It's so irritating to both of us, but it just seems like there's a buildup. I can only take so much, and then I have to have a day where I break down and I let it all out because it can be very exhausting. Let's see. A third thing I came across was that people that are highly sensitive do not handle time pressures well. Yeah, that would be me. You know, do you ever feel the pressure of even just a ticking clock? You know, if you've got something you have to have done in an hour and you've been procrastinating and you put it off and you put it off and you put it off, and you know that pressure that you feel when, you know, it's down to the last hour and you've got to get this done. For a lot of people that are highly sensitive, that is just a common everyday feeling. Honestly, I always feel like I'm under pressure, and that there's going to be, I'm just always pushing myself. I'm always, okay, I gotta hurry and get this done. I gotta hurry and get this done. And it can be a problem because you are, you know, putting so much pressure on yourself, and you're feeling that, you know, time, I don't know, for me, I'm sure for many of you too, time is a very precious thing. There's definitely not enough of it. And it's not, yeah, I totally vibe with this one. That feeling, you know, working under a ticking clock. But really, I thought that one, I really understand that one well. Honestly, it feels like kind of like you're in a constant race with the clock, even if it's nothing that has to be done that day. I often feel that way. But I know for a lot of people, you can be very frazzled. You know, you can be very frazzled when you're rushed. But highly sensitive people, they kind of have just because they struggle with that feeling, and, you know, if they really do have something and it's down to the wire and they've got to get it done, Once all of that is done, they feel completely frazzled. Um, the nice thing, that's the bad part about it, but the nice thing, as far as when it comes to this, is that highly sensitive people, when they aren't stressed and they aren't pushed for time, they have a really good power of focus, and they can really get focus on things deeply and get a lot done that way. So that's kind of a nice part. The first thing I've got here is highly sensitive people. They tend to withdraw and isolate. Yeah, that would be me. You know, I think that they think there are a lot of introverts that are highly sensitive, and there are a lot of extroverts as well that are highly sensitive, where they get their energy from the people and the friends around them, but they still have to, once, like, if a highly sensitive person goes to church or to a party or even to the grocery store, anywhere where there's interaction with other people, and you're going to pick up on other people's emotions, any little thing like that can be kind of exhausting. And especially like at a party or something where there's a large group of people, it's really, I love meeting people and going out with friends and things, but I find after I've got to have an hour or two to myself just to, I I don't even know. It's just, maybe it's just restoring my energy. And I always find, I don't understand this either, but I've asked a lot of people, and I know I'm not the only one. The people that are really sensitive, taking a bath or taking a shower when you're really frustrated or frazzled, for some reason, can really help calm you down and kind of restore your energy. There's something about water. I don't understand it. I just know it helps. And I'm curious how many of you have ever felt like that. I'm curious. Anyway. So, okay, yeah, I'm sure you've seen somebody who slips away quietly, from a noisy party, or someone who comes home after a really busy day and just wants some solitude. That's a time when highly sensitive people need to restore their energy and kind of process whatever it is that they've taken in that day. It can make social gatherings and busy days, emotionally draining. And one thing that I just want to make sure you understand is that people that are highly sensitive, they're not doing this to be antisocial. It's a recharge. It's a necessary part, honestly, of self-care. And again, that's not them being antisocial at all. They just need to recharge. Fifth thing I've got down here is that highly sensitive people are easily startled by noise or by light. Yeah, definitely. The blare of a car horn, or just a bright flash of light, that can be, that can make anybody jump. But for people that are highly sensitive, they're wired, so the height of their sensitivity is, way up there. And so things like that, just a big noise or a big flash of light, something like that would make anybody else jump. I mean, it can be overwhelming. And I was thinking about this. Every time my husband and I drive somewhere together, it's usually to a race or something. And on the way home from those races, we're both tired, and he usually does the driving. And once in a while, he hit one of those stupid rumble strips. And I used to think maybe, it was just part of the PTSD from my accident that would cause me to just. It does. I don't know. It's just it. I don't like them. I don't respond to them well. But I wonder if it's just from being highly sensitive. I don't know. I just know those rumble strips scared the crap out of me. And it just grates on my nerves. And I'll tell you, if he's angry with me over something and we're traveling, he'll continue to hit those a few times just to get me back. I hate those things. But that's just one example. It does something, deep inside. There's like a visceral reaction, a fight or flight reaction. I just don't like those things. But for highly sensitive people, things like that can be very, very bothersome. And that's just the way that people that are sensitive are wired. You can't help it. Uh, the nice thing is that I was reading that people that, even though they can be startled easily, um, it says here, oh, I wrote it down right here. Okay, it says, yeah, highly sensitive persons are the first to notice the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind or a single note hanging in the air. Yeah, that's true. There's difficulties that come with this, but there's some nice little benefits about that too. And I was thinking about Tommy when I was reading over this particular trait. And I was thinking about, he's been very open about the time that he has spent in prison and um, what it's like. And I can't imagine if I can't imagine someone that's highly sensitive being in prison. Um, some of the things that Tommy's seen, the violence and everything. If a person is highly sensitive and is in prison and has to go through any, just even a 16th of what Tommy went through there, oh, they'll be in therapy forever. I can't imagine that some of the things that some of the things that he's seen, guys. It's amazing. I mean, I know that he journals a lot, and that must be how he's worked through so many of these things, because I think that anybody that has been through addiction, even if you aren't, if your brain wasn't wired from birth to be extra sensitive, I think that you become very sensitive in certain areas, and there are things that you have learned to pay attention to, and there's things you are well acquainted with. You become sensitive about those things, and you pay attention, you observe. And yeah, I honestly think I would love to tell you what, it would be really interesting, to go back to school and maybe do some research in this area or something. I think that would be fascinating, as far as, working with, I would love to know the numbers, how many in the boat are actually highly sensitive people, because I'm thinking they're probably a large number. Let's see. Anyway, okay, the sixth thing. They are picky with their clothing. And I was reading here, it says, are you ever irritated or annoyed with someone that spends considerable time choosing what they're going to put on? And yeah, that can be irritating. I've seen what my husband goes through when we're going somewhere important, and it takes me an hour just to figure out what I'm putting on. But anyway, with highly sensitive people, they will often spend a great deal of time just choosing what clothing they're going to put on. And this goes down to your socks and your underwear and everything, because everything, all the sensory input is processed on such a deep level with highly sensitive people. Very often, what is next to their skin, the textures, become very important. And I know quite a few people that there are only certain things they can wear because of this. Something that might feel a little scratchy to a normal person can drive an HSP absolutely mad, just because their sensitivity level is so much higher. So yeah, I just thought that was funny. It's something scratchy can honestly become highly distressing. But just remember, they're not doing that people that are highly sensitive, they're not doing that out of vanity. They're doing it out of necessity. You know. Let's see, the seventh thing. I have a low tolerance for pain. Um, it says here, you know, highly sensitive people, what did I write? They have a lower threshold for, you know, a lower threshold for pain. They can't endure pain as well as other people, you know. And, you know, even something simple like a headache can really become debilitating. You know, people that are sensitive like that, when it comes to pain, they're not being over dramatic. They really do feel it a great deal more than normal people do. You know, you just need to remind yourself, if you know, if you have someone around you, or if you are experiencing that yourself, you know, or you have a low tolerance for pain, you just remind yourself you're not being a sissy. This is simply how you're wired. You know, and I really want to and one of the other reasons I wanted to go through these traits and tell you know, help you guys understand what highly sensitive people are, is because some highly sensitive people don't understand that they're wired differently, you know, and that they are going to feel these things much more strongly. But I also worry about parents with very sensitive children. I know that I know that's why a lot of the things that I saw in my house growing up that were bad affected me so much more deeply than any other than any of my other siblings. And I think I have, you know, all of us, you can see if I look at, you know, each of my siblings, you know, each one of us has had some bad reactions to everything that we all went through growing up. But I'm kind of the black sheep in the family. I'm the one who really messed up, and the one that, I don't know. It's just, I'm definitely the troubled one in there. And I honestly think, you know, if my parents had known that I was that sensitive, and that normal things, you know, affect me abnormally, I think, you know, things would have been a lot better off. And so if you have children or grandchildren that you see some of these signs in, you know, it'd be good to know, and to find out, you know, ways to help, especially when kids are little and they're that sensitive. You know, it's important to know how to handle that with them. So that's, again, just another reason why I want to bring this up, you know. And hopefully too, if people are wired this way, and in their, you know, with your kids, your grandkids, and you know what to do, it's going to definitely lessen the chances of them ever becoming addicts. So let's see, the eighth thing. Okay, sudden changes for sensitive people. They can get overwhelmed with changes very easily. um, Things like surprise parties, unplanned trips, you know, those are really fun, things like that. But you know, depending on emotionally where an HSP is during the day, any of those things can be overwhelming. You know, all kinds of change is just difficult to take on for sensitive people. It's just the way it is. um, and the best way is, you know, if there's a big change that's come, you know, and there's no way around it, you know, highly sensitive people just need time to process it. You know, they do, just according to the research I was looking at, just for this particular trait, what they are finding is that sensitive people do manage change as well. They just need more time. So, and I was also thinking, as far as I really try anymore with changes, to look at them the way that Jocko Willink looks at them. You know, I've spoken of him before. He's the discipline equals freedom gentleman, the former Navy SEAL guy. When he was a leader of SEAL Team 3, I don't remember, but anytime anybody under him would come to him with a problem, and they'd sit down and explain everything to him, what was going on and everything about it, he would say the same thing every time. It used to drive everybody crazy because he'd go, good. But he likes to look at any situation. It's got to be, if there's a problem, it's got to be taken care of. You might as well, have a good mindset about it. And he always looks at any problem as an opportunity to learn something. So, look at any problem, any change, look at it and look at it as, there's a gift in there somewhere. I'm going to find it. There's something you can learn there. That's kind of the way I'm trying to take on changes anymore, is just to try to think of them that way instead of getting overwhelmed with them. Sometimes that's unavoidable too. Let's see. Okay, the ninth thing I've got here is hunger will make HSPs very moody. Being hangry, it can be a real thing. And I my youngest, I've seen this trait in her definitely. But the HSPs, sensitive people, they get more than just grumpy when they're hungry. And so, and it's just because, they have a heightened response to everything, and it's kind of physiologic, and they will respond to low blood. Their response to low blood sugar, just like with pain, is a little bit extreme. It's just a good idea if you are sensitive and you do struggle with that. It's really good to always keep snacks around, like in a purse or in the car or whatever. That is helpful. Let's see. Oh, I just kind of threw in here too. The sensitivity that highly sensitive people have, as far as their body signals, they through research have figured out that the people that are highly sensitive, they're more tuned into their bodies, and what that leads to in the end is that because they're more sensitive to the needs of their body, they actually have a better balanced diet in the end, and have better self-care that way. And they are often very good about things like food sensitivities, things like that, because it's not, everything that goes into your body or your brain, if you're highly sensitive, is going to it's going to affect you. And so for a lot of people like that, because they're more sensitized, they do have a lot more food sensitivities as well. That's something else that you can see. Another thing that is very common with highly sensitive people is during some kind of conflict or argument, they often get paralyzed. And I've definitely experienced that. It drives my husband crazy when we get into a serious argument, because you guys have seen me. I can't hold back my emotions. And if I'm really angry or I'm really upset about something, I cannot stop the tears. But I also find that when we're talking about something serious and I'm really upset about something, I do freeze and I have to walk away. He's trying to, have an argument with me and talk about, we're trying to come to some agreement over something, and I can't even function. And I do just have to walk away. And it's not that I don't care. It's just that I have got to walk away and let things settle down and process things and write. I find so much help with writing things down in my journal, because, like I've said so many times, when you feel something very strongly, all your emotions, you're kind of thinking in your emotional part of your brain, which is back here in the kind of the midbrain, and talking it out or writing things down, of course, moves all of those thoughts to the front of your brain, where you're not feeling them as much as you're starting to think about them and think about them rationally. Anyway, it's, that I do have to take a break and walk away. And it's usually, I usually need to sleep on it to even feel right about it the next day. And it does drive my husband crazy. But I learned that a long time ago, that when my mother was losing her marbles and screaming and taking all her frustrations out on everybody else, um, I would freeze. It terrified me. Just terrified me. I look, but you do that. It's survival. For me, it was emotional survival. You freeze. You don't, and you just try to figure out, how am I going to make mom happy? How am I going to quiet her down? I remember this one distinctly. But people will often during arguments freeze or withdraw or become really silent during an argument. But what I want to say again, this is not an indifference. This is not that they don't care. They simply need time to process it, because remember, people that are that sensitive process everything at such a deep core level. It takes time. Yeah. Oh, okay, yes. And one of the good things about people that are sensitive that way is after a conflict, after a sensitive person has had time to process these things, they often have some really good insight because of their ability to focus deeply. So in the end, it can, just give that person time, and you're often, this person will come back with a solution to the conflict. The 11th thing that I came across was that criticism. Criticism for sensitive people was definitely stings more than normal. Way, way more. Have you ever felt just something's happened that absolutely gut punched you? You know, think about for a minute, think about something that did that to you, where you just felt like somebody laid into you, right in your solar plexus and just knocked the air and the energy and everything out of you, just gut punched. Think about that and what that feels like. That is a very common feeling for sensitive people. I mean, very common. Little things can create that feeling in them. And all their emotions are processed so deeply. It's the same thing with criticism, and it just plain hurts. And I hate to say that, but to all of you that are sensitive deeply like that, it's just something we have to learn to live with. I don't really know a way around it, but I do. Even little, it depends on where I am, as far as my mood, during the day and things like that, if I'm having a really hard day, or, there's something that's really bringing me down, then criticisms hurt and can cut very deeply. Other days, I don't care, but in general, as far, there are some things I care very deeply about, but as far as what people think of me in the end, I really do not care. It's kind of freeing. But again, like I said, it's just for all of you that are sensitive, criticism is just something you have to learn to live with. And remember that there's often something you can learn and something you can take from, even from a situation that cuts you that deeply. Some of the others, let me look really quickly. There's so many different signs, but I just want to list a few others. People that are highly sensitive often have very difficult time letting go of negative emotions. I'm sure many of you can understand that. You frequently feel physical symptoms because something unpleasant stresses you out during the day. You have somatic complaints, basically. That's a very common thing. People can often have bad days that affect their eating and sleeping in an unhealthy way. where you're going to either sleep too much or not sleep enough. You guys, that live stream that I did a few nights ago, the one that I told you I was never going to talk about some of those things, not with anybody like I did, I'm glad I did, and it really shook me, but guys, it shook me a lot more deeply than I anticipated. It threw me. I ended up getting really ill. So I definitely understand that one. Definitely. Sometimes things can throw you off that badly that, I couldn't sleep. I was throwing up. It did. Those things affected me that much. Anyway, tension, feeling a lot of tension or anxiety on a daily basis. That's a very common thing. People that are really sensitive, they'll beat themselves up when they fall short of their own expectations. That's very common. People that are sensitive often are afraid of rejection. Even in minor situations, that's something they can be very afraid of. They can compare themselves to others and experience a lot of negative feelings, from like social comparisons, things that go on in social media, things like that. It's for highly sensitive people. Yeah, it's really a place they should honestly stay away from, because it's just not worth the negative emotions that you can feel from that. Sensitive people can often feel anger or resentment about situations in society, especially where things are unjust. It can really disturb a sensitive person. I mean, really disturb them. Another thing that is common, let's see, I often worry about what another person is thinking. That's very common. They can also find it difficult when they're triggered to just let it go. I'm sure you all know people or you themselves. I have a very difficult time with this one, just letting go. Yeah, understand that one. Let's see. They have a hard time accepting critical feedback. Yeah, I already talked about that one. Let's see. Even when it's given reasonably and constructively, that's an important point right there. Let's see. People that are really sensitive often feel like everybody is judgmental, even when there's no evidence for that. They'll feel that. They can overreact to real or perceived slights. That's one. They often feel awkward in group situations, and they feel like they cannot be themselves. That's another one. They often feel self-conscious in romantically intimate situations, and they can get very, very excessively worried and be seeking their partner's approval. They're really afraid of being judged or rejected in situations like that. Another one is just feeling uncomfortable in crowds. Another one, another one is that they can feel very uncomfortable when exposed to bright lights, loud sounds, certain strong smells, anything like, really any kind of information that you take in with your senses. People, it's just going to feel it so much more deeply, so much more, you're going to be just so much more sensitive to it, if you are a highly sensitive person. I mean, there's so many things, but nice thing about being a highly sensitive person, one nice thing is that I have the ability to focus deeply, and I do have a great attention to detail when I'm working on a project. That's something that I can handle. And it's, sensitive people experience the world quite a bit differently and definitely more intensely than normal people. But you know what? It might just, if you were highly sensitive, it might just give you an edge right there, to stand out from everyone else. You definitely got some talents and some abilities that other people don't. And I do think there are a lot of highly sensitive persons that end up with an addiction of some kind, because they feel everything so deeply. Um, Especially when it comes to processing any kind of trauma, that can be so overwhelming that you do. I've done it myself. I've sought out my pain pills was my way of dealing with something that I just found too overwhelming. Um, you're gonna, people that feel like that, they're going to look for, some way to mitigate that traumatizing pain. It's so, I understand, there's definitely reasons why we all end up, for everybody at the lifeboat, there's definite reasons why we end up um, with an addiction. But, there's something that is, and it might just be day to day, sometimes even too, that you just cannot process or deal with because things can become very overwhelming. Anyway, that's why I just really thought this might be an important one. It wasn't. I used to wonder, what made me so different. Why did I struggle with everything that I saw going on in the house I grew up in, where my siblings have none of them have ever struggled with their mental health the way that I have, and I always wondered, what made me the freak. That's what I used to feel like, and it it made when I first heard of the traits of a highly sensitive person, I was very intrigued, and because they sounded a lot like me, and I've actually been diagnosed as that. It does make life interesting, but like I said, as well, not just, I do believe that a lot of addicts are HSPs, but even if you aren't, once you get to sobriety, like I said, people that have an addiction become very sensitive and notice things in others that a lot of other people don't. And a lot of times it is a method of survival, but can be a superpower in a lot of ways. You just have to learn how to deal with it. But let me jump over here and see who's in chat. We got Annette, Todd G, John Doe, Dove Angel, Annette. I don't know it. Annette, Cheryl Niles. Let's see. I think I've seen Cheryl here before, but Annette, that's a new name to me. And Scooby with a Doobie. Good morning to all you guys. Let's see. Rick is here. Let's see. Not seeing any other names that I didn't already see this morning, but you guys, I hope that you have a really good day today. Boy, there was something I wanted to ask everybody. You know what? I look today for on the community post for the lifeboat. I'm going to put up just a little survey. If you guys wouldn't mind, I've got a few questions, and I think that'll be the easiest way to find out from everybody. So anyway, hope you guys have a great day. If you need help, mental health help, or if you're struggling with addiction, reach out. That's, if you don't have 5 people, a list of 5 people with their numbers that you can call when you're struggling, you need to get a list together. It is such a help when you can reach out to someone else, and sometimes you just need to be heard. But very often you can find a lot of help and a lot of strength from the people just here in the chat, on the lifeboat chat. but please reach out. Charlie is so good. He always puts Tommy's and my email addresses in the chat, and we're here. And there's that Facebook group too. There's a lot of good places where you can get help. But please don't suffer in silence. Don't, if you're struggling and you need help, just ask, because there's so many people on the deck of the lifeboat that have been there, and they understand and they know how to help. It's this wonderful thing. But again, you guys have a great day, and I will be talking to you, I'm sure, tomorrow. We'll see ya.